breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm and friendly hello! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got a great podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. We're going to chat it up with him about some of his expectations for the second half of the season, this very, very murky American League, and then we'll take a look at the games that we've got for Saturday. In the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, there's VM. They mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. Then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, boy, did we have a fun day of baseball on Friday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Red Sox are back to 500. They take 2 from the Rays on Friday, and they've won 11 straight. 10-0, they win in game numero uno. Jake Bennett, 6 shutout innings, allows just 1 hit. And then from there, you were able to have 3 shutout innings from Alec Gamboa. For the Rays, Griffin Jax gets jaxed up. 7 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, including a bomb as Masataka Yoshida, 4th home run season. Then you had Mr. Carlos Narvaez get his 3rd home run of the season. That comes off of Chris Roycroft, gives up 3 runs in his 2 innings. Ben Williamson, position player, shutout inning, but way too little, way too late. Game number 2, much more competitive, but same result. Red Sox, 5-3 winners. As for the Rays, Mason Engler, 5 runs allowed in 5 innings. Wilson Contreras, 21st home run of the season. Weiler Abreu, wiles out, 12th and 13th home run of the season for Mr. Eduardo Rivera. Not what he was looking for. He gives up 3 runs in 2 1/3 innings, and he was cranked deep, getting home run number 29 of the campaign, Junior Caminero. How about the bullpen from there, though? Greg Weiser, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels, Giovanni Morin, 2 shutout innings, Teran Guerrero, Garrett Woodlock, Justin Slayton, Aroldis Chapman. They all turn scoreless innings. Being able to turn a lot of scoreless innings, the LA Dodgers, 2-1, they take down the Yankees. The Yankees, over their last 22 games, have averaged fewer than 3.5 runs per game, and for the Dodgers, Roki Sasaki gives up just 1 unearned run in 5 2/3 innings. Jack Dreyer, 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Alex Vesia, Tanner Scott, great Scott, both give you a shutout inning. And I think Garrett Cole wasn't bad. 8 punch-outs, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. He does give up a home run to Max Muncy, 18th home run of the season. But Brent Hedrick, Fernando Cruz, Paul Blackburn, they all walk the plank to give you a scoreless inning. But nothing doing for the Yankees offense. Nothing doing for the Rangers either. 15-1, absolutely destroyed by the Atlanta Braves. Chris Sale does not sell. 7 shutout innings from there. Victor Medeiros gives up a run in 2 innings. For Cal Quantrill, absolutely destroyed in this one. 6 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings, and he was taken deep by Matt Olson. 26th home run of the campaign. Drake Baldwin is 16th, and then a little bit later on, Austin Riley, he gets his 10th home run season. That comes off of the backup catcher, Kyle Higashioka, 3 runs allowed in an inning. You had Gavin Collier give up 4 runs in his inning work. Brandon Peoples and out of the bullpen scoreless, and Emmanuel, hopefully I got that correct, Teodo, he was able to come in for 1 2/3 innings. He gave up 2 runs along the way himself. The Chicago White Sox absolutely lambasted the Blue Jays. 12-4 the final. Spencer Miles, not what he was looking for. 6 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. Sam Antonazzi takes him deep, 7th home run of the campaign. Anthony Kay, he said okay to this start. 2 runs allowed in 4 innings. He does give up a home run to Ramon Urias, his 2nd home run of the campaign. A little bit later on, Brandon Valenzuela off of Trevor Richards' 8th home run season. Richards also gives one up to George Springer, 10th home run season. Richards gives up those 2 home runs in 1 2/3 innings, but it's Anthony Dominguez giving an out of the bullpen scoreless. And Tyler Schweitzer, he was able to come in for 3 shutout innings. And for the Blue Jays, you had Patrick Corbin, Patrick Corbin, come out of the bullpen, 3 runs, 2 of which were in 1 1/3 innings. Alex Macko gives up 2 runs in his inning work. Braden Fisher, a pair of outs out of the bullpen, he gives up a run, and you did have CJ Van Eyck in his MLB debut give you 2 shutout innings, but way too little, way too late out there. For the Baltimore Orioles, they get the job done against the Houston Astros. 3-2 the finalists. For the Orioles, they got a solid start out of Dean Kramer. 2 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. Probably wanted a little bit more length, but how about the bullpen from there? You had Grant Wolfram and Cam Sanders combined for a shutout inning. Andrew Kittredge, Tyler Wells, they both pitch Wells for a scoreless inning, and Anthony Nunez, 2 shutout innings. Peter Lambert was great here. 10 punch-outs, gives up 1 run over the course of 6 innings, and then Brian King was not the king. He was the king of taking loss, giving us up 2 runs in his inning work as Taylor Ward, 7th home run of the season off of him. Steven Okert and Yadier Los Santos both give you a shutout inning, but For the Astros, they leave 11 men on base, nobody to blame but themselves for that loss. In 10 innings, the Milwaukee Brewers get the job done against the Miami Marlins, 2-1 the final. Marlins still have the best record in all of baseball since June 1st, and Sandy Alcantara did his part. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings, gives up a home run to Joey Ortiz, 4th home run season. Calvin Fauché, Michael Peterson, Pete Fairbanks all end a scoreless inning, and then Lake Bakar gives up the game winner unearned run to Garrett Mitchell in the 10th inning. Meanwhile, Logan Anderson, 1 run allowed in 5 innings. That 1 run, a home run to Griffin Conine, 6th home run of the season. Bullpen from there, great. Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, Chad Patrick, Trevor McGill, Craig Yoho. They all end scoreless innings, and for the Brewers, they win this game despite leaving 12 men on base. For the Cincinnati Reds, they were on to a nice 7-2 win over the Colorado Rockies, as this was not a bad start here from Gabriel Hughes. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings, and then bullpen made a mess out of things. Jimmy Ergett, he gives up a pair of home runs in 2/3 of an inning. You had Jeff Griswold give up a pair of home runs in his 2 innings of work. Rockies are honestly lucky. They only gave up 7 runs. Victor Vodnik, he gives up an unearned run in his inning of work, as going deep for the Reds, and Eugenio Suarez, 12th home run of the campaign. Spencer Steer, his 15th and 16th home runs of the season, and Ellie De La Cruz, his 16th. And for Brady Singer, had the Rockies singing the blues. 2 earned runs or fewer allowed by him, and now 7 out of his last 8 starts. Does give up home run to Willie Castro, 8th home run of the campaign, but Brock and Roll Burke and TJ Antone, they're both able to give you a scoreless inning. Not a lot of scoreless innings out there in Kansas City. 7-6 in 10 innings. The Royals, they royally get the job done against the Slam Diego Padres, as Michael King, this was a solid start from him. He gives up 1 run in 5 innings, was taken deep by Lane Thomas, 8th home run of the season. From there, Bradley Rodriguez, an unearned run, give it up in his inning of work. Adrian Morejon goes for 2 innings. He gives up a run. Mason Miller, he got into a sticky wicket, but he was able to get out of it. Shutout 9th inning, and then Kyle Hart, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in the 10th. And if you, like me, had the under in this game, this was 3-3. Going into the 10th inning, just a rough beat. Seth Lugo, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in 6 innings. Steven Cruz, John Schreiber, they both give you a shutout inning. Alex Lang, he gives up a home run in his inning work. Ty France, more like Win France, his 12th home run of the campaign. And Lucas Ursich, 3 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in the 10th inning, and somehow, someway, he gets the win. Sometimes life is just unfair. For the Minnesota Twins, they get a 5-2 win over the Chicago Cubs, as Colin Ray, he said, more like Colin Boo to his start. 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, and he gives up a home run to Ryan Jeffers, 8th home run of the campaign. Bailey Ober, solid in this one. 2 runs given up in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Tommy Nance, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Taylor Rogers, and out of the bullpen scoreless. Andrew Morrissey, Andres Gomez, they led scoreless 8th and 9th innings. And for the Cubs, they did their part with their bullpen. Ryan Rolson and Tyler Ferguson led a scoreless inning. Drew Pomeranz gives up a run in 1/3 of an inning. Gavin Hallwell, he was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but too little, too late out there. For the Los Angeles Angels, they go into the 9th inning, leading 1-0 over the Tigers, and shock, surprise, the bullpen yaks it up 2-1. Tigers get the job done. Troy Melton, 5 2/3 innings, gives up just 1 run along the way. Cadillo Montero, 3 1/3 innings, scoreless to close this one out. Reed Demers was great, 6 shutout innings. Ryan Zephyrian, Sam Bachman, they both give you a scoreless inning. Kirby Yates, 2 runs given up in 2/3 of an inning. That ended up being the backbreaker, and that was rough for the Angels. Do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, and right now for the Washington Nationals, they're in action against the Athletics, but we know what happened in this game. As I'm doing this, they're up 18-2. This might adjust by a run or two, but they're right now up 18-2 going into the bottom of the 8th inning. I feel very safe in saying that the Washington Nationals got the job done here. They certainly got the over. As I'm recording this, the Nationals are 10-14 with men in scoring position. Kate Cavalli, a solid start. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Does give up a home run to Tyler Soderstrom. 15th home run season. Gage gets jumped. 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 3 2/3 innings. And everyone that has followed has been even worse, aside from Brady Basso, who just turned a scoreless 8th inning. But you had Jose Suarez give up 2 runs in his inning work, as he was taken deep by Andres Shapiro for his 2nd home run of the season. Then he would go deep later on. Shapiro would off of Junior Tour. Hopefully I got that correct. Tur. So Junior Tour, he gave up 6 runs in 2 innings, including that home run. And then Justin Cerner, he got 1 out of the bullpen, and he gives up 6 runs, all of which were earned, including a home run to Harry Ford, his first career home run, so yay, barely there. And right now, Ryan Cornelio is in the game for the Washington Nationals. He turned a scoreless 7th inning for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They fall to the St. Louis Cardinals. This by count of 5-4. Michael McGreevy had the Diamondbacks McGreevying this one. 2 runs, 1 of which was earned. Give it up in his 6 1/3 innings. Was cranked deep by Tim Tewa. 4th home run of the campaign, and then Corbin Carroll. He was able to get home run number 14 of the season. 2 runs given up by Louis Gastelum in his inning of work, including that home run. But George Soriano, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Riley O'Brien, 25th save of the season. Scoreless inning out of him. Merrill Kelly gives up 3 runs, only 1 of which was earned, as Ketel Marte had his first error of the season, and it was a costly one. J.J. Wetherholt his 14th home run of the season. From there, Taylor Clark, Kevin Ginkel, both led to scoreless inning. Juan Murillo, he gives up a run in his inning work. Paul Sewald, he gives up a run in the 9th inning and ends up taking the loss. I always say that he's not trustworthy before Braden Garcia. Pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and for the Giants, right now they're going into the bottom of the 9th inning up by a count of 7-0 against the Mariners. So whether or not you got the over or a push is a little bit in question, but Giants were able to lay waste in this one. Landon Roop, 7 shutout innings, only 2 strikeouts, but lots of soft contact. From there, you've had a scoreless inning out of Jason Foley, and on the flip side for the Seattle Mariners, this was not what Bryce Miller was hoping for. 3 runs, 2 of which weren't given up in 5 2/3 innings, as he was taken deep by Bryce Eldridge. 9th home run of the season, Jose Ferrer, and out of the bullpen scoreless, and Nick Davila has been a nice arm out of the bullpen for the Seattle Mariners. 4 runs given up in an inning. Willie Adames, 16th home run season, grand slam variety. From there, you've had Michael Rucker be able to give you a scoreless inning along Cole Wilcox, but that's not great out there. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now has been a little bit of an overwhelming season. Over the last 30 days, though, the unders have really reigned supreme, as over the last 30 days, the under rate is above 53%, 161 overs, 184 unders, and if math serves me correct, 15 pushes along the way. Favorites on the money line, they're hitting in that neighborhood about 57 or so percent in this time span, 195 and 147, but among those favorites, 48 failed to cover the run line, and overall for the season, favorites are hitting at about 56% on the money line, 794 and 623, and among those favorites, we have now seen a whopping 187 failed to cover the run line, and the over rate just a hair above 50%. 712 overs, 710 unders, and again, if that serves me correct, 33 pushes along the way. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, let's chat it up with our good friend William Boor over at Action Network right here on the Baseball Betting Show. It's myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beats and Family podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beats and Family podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got William Boor aboard. He does such great work over at Action Network, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Doing a great job on so many different fronts. I know that he does a tremendous job when it comes to taking a look at college football. He does an amazing job just based on whatever the season brings. As we had the World Cup, they did a great job there. A few weeks ago, the hot dog eating contest. So just a big bundle of fun with them. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter side checks at the letter W, last name Boor, Boor, all together. And William, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Of course, Greg, always happy to hop on, talk some betting with you.
Absolutely. And William, we are now getting settled into the second half of the season. We're doing this as the Friday games are starting to commence. And how do we take a look at some of these young teams that have been a nice surprise, like the Nationals, the Cardinals? They've been really profitable teams this year. And I do have some question marks as to whether or not the full 162 games is going to be catching up to them a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough to gauge, but it's definitely something that is real. It's an effect. You see it every year. You don't know who it's going to impact or when or, how much. It hits some players, some teams, late July. Some are all the way good till, early September. But we know it's coming. And the hard part is, trying to price it in or know when to start fading a team or when to just get off a team or whatever. But it's definitely coming.
Yep, it's going to be really interesting to try to take a look at that element of things. And then, we've talked about this before and we'll talk about it again. Man, I just still don't know what to make out of the American League. The Red Sox, as we're doing this, they win game number 1 of that double dip. They're all of a sudden able to surge, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the next 2 weeks, because aside from maybe the Angels and the Royals, you can't think of anyone as being a definitive seller. Any of these teams can really make a run to push themselves into a playoff spot. I'm not sure how you take a look at things, but I think that taking a look at the futures market right now is so intriguing because it's really banking on what happens these next 2.5 weeks and whether or not a team's willing to go for it or not.
Yeah, I think the last time we were on, I mentioned this, and the other day I pulled the trigger and I bet the Tigers to win the AL Central at plus 700. Just because they are 6.5 back, but 7-3 in their final 10 games before the break. Scooble obviously missed some time, healthy now. I'm not super high on the, White Sox, Guardians, or Twins above them. So I'm not necessarily saying that everyone has to jump on board the Tiger train with me. But I think to your point, there are probably some long shots that are going to hit if we want to play through some of these scenarios and look in this American League, whether it's division odds or wild card odds. I mean, you take a team like the Orioles, who seem like they're lost because they're 11 games back in the division, but they're only 2 games back of the wild card. And they also went 7-3 before the break. So there's some teams that haven't been playing well. The tricky part is going to be all these teams that we think underwhelmed in the first half, and there are plenty of them. Who are you willing to back to, right the ship, or who are you going to bet on? And then they're just going to keep playing bad baseball, and you're going to be like, I should have seen that coming.
Yep, that is always interesting to take a look at, to say the least. And there are some of those teams that they just never turn around. Looking at you, the New York Mets, it's been really, really brutal for them, to say the least, as we do have William Boor of Action Network joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And hey, one of those teams that has been surging, that would be the Philadelphia Phillies. They take on the aforementioned Mets, and right now they're a pretty Mondo-sized favorite, like -160, -165, total of 8.5. What do you make out of this game and just the Phillies moving forward? Because they're another one of those teams that they had just that rough first month and a half of the season, but Donnie Baseball has been able to turn things around, and they have really been able to hit their stride, and all of a sudden are right back into it in the National League East.
I really like the Phillies. I like them on Saturday with Luzardo on the mound, but just in general, like long term, I think this is a really good team. It's obviously every game counts, and you can't just erase the first month of the season. But what you can do in your mind is kind of be like, hey, look, the team that has played, they've played 90 games. So if you want to, the team that's played 70 of those games is one of the best teams in baseball and is playing really good over the past 2-3 months. So I think they are transforming into the team that we all thought they were going to be. And it's one of those things where if you want to take a long shot future on some of those teams, we're talking about the AL, you're hoping to see the turnaround. With the Phillies, we have seen the turnaround. And if you want to talk about some of the teams that you're not sure how they're going to hold up over 162 games because they're young, I mean, this is a team that has veterans, that has players that have played in October that, know how to perform late in the year. Like, I'm not worried about Bryce Harper breaking down at the end of the year or getting fatigued. I'm not worried about Kyle Schwarber getting fatigued. I am worried about him making contact, but I'm not worried about like a September slump or anything like that. It's just related to the length of the season. Like, this team knows how to play 162 games, and they know how to play more than that. So I'm really high on the Phillies moving forward.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And Jesus Luzardo, he's a guy that was really unlucky to begin the season. He has really been able to turn it around, so I've been liking what I've been seeing there. And what do we make out of the Miami Marlins as well? They're a bit of an underdog here against the Milwaukee Brewers on Saturday. Shane Drone going against Max Meyer, and Max Meyer has been absolutely tremendous. He's a guy that was on the All-Star team. That said, for the Miami Marlins, you have to have a few question marks with this team because it does feel like it was a little bit smoke and mirrors what they were able to do, and I don't know if it's going to quite be sustainable for them.
These are one of the teams that I was kind of alluding to earlier, right? This is a young team. They've played really well. Like, they've exceeded my expectations thus far, but I don't know if it's sustainable. I don't expect them to keep pace with the Braves and the Phillies. And then I just wonder kind of if they fall out of it, where does, the fatigue of the season, the motivation, I wonder, I wouldn't be shocked if, the second half is a little more disappointing than the first. That said, there's still some pieces on this team I like, but I think the Marlins would be a team that I would bet on a day-to-day basis and pick my spots, and not necessarily a team that I'd grab any sort of futures on.
Yep, I agree with you there. And then another team that I think is going to provide a lot of value day-to-day, I just don't know if they're going to be able to win that pennant, though. That'd be the Tampa Bay Rays, because with the Rays, it just feels like every single regular season, they give you a good effort, but then they just don't quite have the top-end guys to be able to make that run in the postseason. I don't know if you agree/disagree there, but I do think that that's the way that I'm going to be playing them. And in terms of game-to-game, I'm looking at them on Saturday against the Red Sox with Ian Seymour being right around about even money.
Yeah, I would take the Rays on Saturday for sure. Big picture-wise, I'm with you. They seem like a team built much more for 162 than for 5 here, 7 here, 7 there. That said, if there is a time where maybe the Yankees overtake them in the division and they lose 5 of 6 or something like that, I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on the Rays if the number gets big enough, because I do think there's some pieces there, but I definitely don't want, the current number or when they're priced as the 1 seed or anything like that. But every team goes through slumps, and I think depending on where the number gets, if they have a rough 10-day stretch, it could be worth buying. But overall, I'm with you.
Yep, and I do think that there's a lot of intriguing teams right now just all across the league, because I take a look at the Astros as being one of them as well. Missed the postseason last year, but they've been the big bad wolf out there in the American League for darn near a decade. Really rough start to the season for them. They're right back in the American League West hunt, and they're a relative pick'em here against Baltimore. Want to get your thoughts on this game and them moving forward, because I do like the Rangers in that division, but for the Astros, I think they're still alive for a playoff spot, and if they could just find any sort of starting pitching whatsoever, I really think that they can make a run.
That's interesting that you mentioned you like the Rangers in that division. I really like the Mariners in that division. So that probably doesn't bode well for the Astros. Neither of us are on that. We're on two different teams. I'm with you, though. I mean, they are only 3 games back in that division. They're only a game and a half back of the wild card. So it's not like anything is, out of reach. That's a very slim margin. Minus 47 run differential. Expected win-loss is 8 games under 500. So they've actually exceeded expectations by 2 games if you look into the advanced metrics. This is a team that I think, yes, they could play better. They could get starting pitching. You're right, but I just don't know what I've seen for, 98 games is they're just kind of meh. And unless they go out and make a big splash, I don't know why anything would change, why there'd be anything different. But that said, like you mentioned, if you only need to make up a game and a half, if you go get even a decent starting pitcher, not even an ace, but just kind of a 2 or a 3, boom, making up 2 games is not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, man, that AL West race, it feels like, is going to be interesting. The NL East is going to be a fascinating race as well. So we are going to have some really good ones moving forward. And that's the beauty of baseball, because even though we've got a very, very mediocre American League out there, it does cause for some great races. It does cause for some great intrigue in general. So that makes things all the more promising. And we do have ourselves a really promising card on Saturday, because we don't just have 15 games. We've got 16, with the fact that we had the cancellation / the postponement in Pirates versus Guardians. Anything else that you're really going to be looking at?
Phillies. I'm on the Phillies. I'm on the Guardians. I think I'm going to be on the Diamondbacks. I really like Brandon Pfaadt. I know kind of limited sample size hasn't been as great this year. And then we mentioned the Cardinals maybe slipping. So I'll probably be on that as well. But that kind of scares me. I don't really give that out with a ton of confidence. And then I'm also going to be on the Tigers on Saturday with Scooble, big number. So might parlay that with something. But if my AL Central ticket's going to come through, I'm going to have to start hopping on the Tigers on quite a few games here. So that's kind of a double bet, if you will.
And with the Tigers, I want to ask you about that as well, because right now I'm seeing that total of an 8 with the under juice right around about minus 105. If someone doesn't want to lay that big chalky money line and has trepidations with the run line, would maybe the under be a way to go? Because that's the way that I'm really looking at this game.
Yeah, I think obviously you're going to hope that Scooble is going to do his part. And then you kind of get some of that heavier air in LA at night. Grayson Rodriguez, the numbers are it's not great. You never want an ERA to start with 7, but the Tigers aren't exactly a team that, slugs out 7 runs anyway. So I think maybe you could hope that even if the Angels struggle, if Scooble does the bulk of the work, you could get like a 5-1 win or something like that could maybe help, or probably even a little lower than that. But I definitely don't mind taking a look at the under as a way to kind of bet the Tigers without actually betting the Tigers.
Yep, I think that that's a great way to go. And a great way to go on this podcast is getting you aboard, my friend. William, you're doing such great work over at Action Network on so many different fronts. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Absolutely. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at WBoor, WBOOR, and follow me in the Action Network app at William Boor _, all one word. Download the app, check out actionnetwork.com. We've got betting stuff for pretty much every baseball game every day, every WNBA game. And this is coming out Saturday. So there's obviously a couple of big soccer games this weekend. So we'll have you covered for the World Cup if you want to bet, the winner, props, goal scorers. We've got a whole bunch of soccer content as well.
Absolutely. And William, he's doing such an amazing job looking at this amazing sport of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to William for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always great to be joined by William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. Take a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So, big thanks to William for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. First game is presently off the board. This is 9:01, 9:02 on the card. The Reds, yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're onto the road to face off against the Rockies. We know that Rhett Lauder is going to be making some noise here for the Reds. It's to be determined for the Rockies. Should be either Ryan Feltner or Tomoyuki Sugano. Both guys would have a relatively solid value here. Either guy, 12 or less, looking at the over, 12.5 or higher or the under. I set the Reds at a -113 on the money line. Would be willing to go up to -112 with them, plus 114 or better the Rockies. Feltner gets a few more strikeouts per 9 innings, but gives up a few more walks. Sugano pitches to a little bit more contact, but keeps things out in front of him. Both of these guys, in my opinion, have a relatively similar fielding independence. Sugano has a little bit of a lower ERA at a 4.80, but a 5.32 fielding independent. With regards to Ryan Feltner, he's a guy that right now is supplying a 4.55 ERA, actually has a lower ERA, but 5.06 fielding independent, does give up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. So again, difference here, very, very minuscule between these two guys, and it comes down to the fact that both of these bullpens are relatively awful as well. Reds are right around about 23rd, 24th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Rockies are a bottom 5 team themselves, with Antonio Senzatella starting to toilet bowl a little bit. Jimmy Harrigan has had an up and down season. Victor Vodnik supplying over a 5 ERA. Juan Mejia, these guys have just not been great, to say the least, in the bullpen. But for the Rockies, you do have Hunter Goodman, who's been a very good man. He has been able to give this team now 27 home runs. I will say 17 plus of them have come away from him. He's actually been a better hitter when he's been on the road rather than at home, but still, I think that he's going to be able to continue to deliver for this team. TJ Bromfield has been hitting in that neighborhood about a 300 as well, and you do have quite a few guys. Blue line, Jake McCarthy is hitting in that neighborhood about a 300. Kyle Karros, Willie Castro, Tyler Freeman. These are guys hitting in the neighborhood about a 260 to a 265, and then for the Reds, Cousin Sal Stewart, he's been your main man. He's been able to supply 19 home runs, hitting about a 255 with a relatively solid on base. But then got Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, JJ Bleday, 14 to 16 home runs apiece. For De La Cruz, he gives you over 340 on base, double figure amount of stolen bases. Bleday over a 330 on base. Steer has been okay with regards to the on base as well. Need a little bit more at the bottom of the fold. They're getting Brian Hayes back. I don't know if that's a good thing. And Eugenio Suarez has not been himself. 11 home runs, hitting for less than a 300 on base. CJ Friedel, guys like this. And for the bullpen, it's been a little bit better recently ever since Caleb Ferguson has been able to come off the injured list. He's been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. These veterans like Brock and Rolberg, TJ Antone, they've been able to give you a sub 4 ERA. You've had Pierce Johnson be a little bit shaky, but he seems to be rounding into form as well. So it's a very interesting circumstance here with Rhett Lauder. He's a guy that has really not been sharp. He was in the bullpen for a little bit of time. They, by just necessity, need to put him back in as a starter. Right now, 491 ERA with the field independent, or about 472, 7.6 strikeouts, 4.5 walks per 9 innings. So 12 or less, looking at the over, 12.5 or higher. The under, and a mullet lay up to -112 with the Reds, whether it's Feltner or Sugano, plus 114 or better the Rockies. 903, 904 on the card. It's the Mets. They're going to be on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies as Jesus Luzardo is on the bump for the Phils, and Sean Manaea goes for the Mets do find themselves as a plus 138 to a plus 140 underdog, minus 160 to minus 170, that number on the Phillies with a total of 8.5. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. If you're looking to lay around half right now with the Phillies, that's right around about a plus 125 or so. I set my money line price at a minus 156. When it's all said and done, I do think that I should be able to get that sort of a money line price. I'd be willing to take a plus 132 or better on the run line as well. So when it's all said and done, I do anticipate myself being in on the Philadelphia Phillies. It's all about just waiting on some overnight line movement for Sean Manaea. He has been better than his ERA would indicate right now, 4.56 ERA, but the fielding dependence is more around about a 4.14. He's given up 1.2 home runs, 2.9 walks per 9 innings, and he's getting right around about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. The bullpen has toilet bowled a little bit with Austin Warren being absolutely awful, but the likes of Luke Weaver, AJ Minter, Oscar Brisbane, Brooks Raley, they've been able to give you a sub 3.50 ERA. Right now, the main thing for the Mets is that they're averaging less than 3.9 runs per game away from home. That is dead last in the National League, and for Jesus Luzardo, this is a guy that has pitched much better than his ERA would indicate. He has been, over the last 12 months, probably the most unlucky pitcher in all of baseball. Right now, he's got a 3.51 ERA, but more like a 2.84 fielding dependent. He's given up 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. He's getting 11.1 strikeouts per 9, so I really like the way that he's rolling in. His luck seems to have turned around. He has given up a combined 5 earned runs over the course of his last 5 starts, 9 plus strikeouts in 4 out of his last 5 as well. Now, I do like the over because we are getting some relatively okay hitting conditions out there in Philadelphia, and for the Phillies, this has been an offense that has been significantly better when they've been at home rather than away from home. Right now for the Phillies, they're a bottom 5 team in the big leagues with about 3.9 runs per game away from home, closer to 4.8 runs per game at home. You've got Kyle Schwarber who's giving you 32 plus home runs over 350 on base. You've gotten a 350 plus on base out of Bryce Harper as well. And for Harper, he's been able to do a nice job hitting the ball in the yard with 20 plus bombs as well. Additionally, you've been able to get some really good production as well out of Brandon Marsh. He's up to right around about 15 home runs, and he's done a good job hitting for above a 300. You need a little bit more out of Bryson Stott, Trey Turner, Alec Bohm, these infielders, but they've improved a little bit. Catcher spot is still rough, and Gabriel Oconus out there in the outfield, he has given you nothing whatsoever. And for the New York Mets, I mean, it's all hinging upon Juan Soto because he's given you 19 plus home runs, right around about a 4 on base, and Carson Bench has been okay. He's been able to 260. He's been able to give you a few home runs himself, but I mean, just a hodgepodge after that. Like Mark Vientos has 11 home runs, but what good does it do when you got a 256 on base? Bo Bichette has been a big giant waste of money. Brett Beatty's hitting at 225. These mix and match guys like Francisco Lindor, he's not a mix and match guy, but just a struggling bat to say the least. Rory Polanco, these guys have not been great to say the least. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, they are in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of opening area, but you shouldn't need too much of it here. Ryan Kirkering, you under on these have been guys that have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA this season. Even Chase Shogert has been relatively okay, so do think that the Phillies should be able to go out there and get the job done, whether that be a plus 132 or better on the run line or a minus 155 or better on the money line. Looking at the Phillies here, I like the over. I set my total at 8.7. 905, 906 on the card. It's the Cardinals. They are going to be on the road. They're facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Brandon Pfaadt is going to be battling for the Diamondbacks, and one Mr. Dustin May hopes that's Mayday for the Diamondbacks. And with the Diamondbacks, you're getting them as a slim favorite here, anywhere between a minus 116 to a minus 120. Between even money to plus 105 is that number on the Cardinals, and right now I'm seeing a total out there of a 9 over and under, both at minus 110, and anything of plus 105 or better, I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the Cardinals on the money line. For Dustin May, he has pitched much better than the ERA would indicate. Maybe he doesn't have the dazzling swing and miss stuff that we thought he was going to have when he was coming up from the minor league level, but he's still been solid. He's posting up a 4.55 ERA, closer to a 3.26 fielding dependent, 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, 0.7 home runs per 9, so I do think that he's going to be able to round into form. He has been significantly worse when he's been away from home rather than at home. As a matter of fact, 11 earned runs given up in 2 2/3 innings in his last 2 starts away from home, but it's an Arizona Diamondbacks team that really is not providing the wallop that they have in the past with their offense as well. You've got Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 17 home runs, hitting in that neighborhood about a 262, 265, and then you've been able to have Corbin Carroll give you 13 home runs, about a 350 on base himself. Geraldo Perdomo, about a 350 on base. Gabriel Moreno moved the line, 385 on base. But these guys like Tommy Troy, Tim Tewa, Ore Barosa, a lot of guys at the bottom fold, hitting at 230 or lower. Lourdes Gurriel has been a disappointment when he's been out there thus far this season. And for the Diamondbacks, it's not a bad bullpen. It's about a league average bullpen. I just still really don't trust in Paul Sewald at the closer's role. But you do have quite a few guys that have been able to go out there, hold down the fort for this team, as you got the likes of Kevin Ginkle, Juan Murillo, Taylor Clark, Ryan Thompson. These have all been guys that have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. For the Cardinals, it's a little bit of an issue with Matt Savanson, along with Ryan Stanek. Both give you above a 4 ERA. Jojo Romero has been a little bit up and down himself, but for this Cardinals lineup, over 5.5 runs per game when they've been away from home. That is numero dos in all baseball. Jordan Walker, big reason why, 22 home runs, and he's been able to hit just below a 300. J.J. Wetherell, 355 on base. Ivan Herrera, 380 on base. Alec Burleson, 15 bombs, hitting at 275. Really, other than some of these mix and match guys towards the bottom, like a Victor Scott, Pedro Paz, this has been a very lively lineup. So I do think that for the Cardinals, they do present a little bit of value here, even though Brandon Pfaadt has been much better in his last few starts. Like, this guy was absolutely terrible to start the season, but ever since he rejoined the rotation, his main 3 starts, he's went a combined 15 and 2/3 innings, allowing 3 runs, but he's also only gotten 10 strikeouts in that time span as well. So I do like the over, so I told 9.3, and for the Cardinals, plus 105 or better in on that money line. 907, 908 on the card. It's the Marlins. They're going to be on the road against the Brewers. Shane Drone goes for the Crew, and Max Meyer for the Marlins. The Marlins, who find themselves as a slim underdog here, between plus 112 to a plus 116. Minus 130 to minus 135 is that number on the Crew. 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 8. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105, and on the 7.5, over is minus 120, and the under is even. And I did set a total here of an 8.3. I do like the over for Max Meyer. I do think that he's doing for a little bit of regression here, as he's had himself a really nice season, but hasn't been quite the same pitcher when he's been away from home. And even on the raw numbers, 258 ERA. He is getting right around about 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 3.2 walks per 9 innings, 352 fielding dependent. That is a little bit of a concern. And for Max Meyer, when he's been on the road this year, it's been more like a 292 ERA compared to a 226 ERA when he's been at home. So he does see that go upward just a little bit. Shane Drone has been really good for this Brewers team, by the way. Maybe not like incredible swing and miss stuff, but still solid at 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, 309 ERA, closer to 324. Fielding dependent. He's backed up by a bullpen that's currently in the top 5 of the big leagues in terms of ERA as well. Trevor McGill, Abner Uribe, after a rough start to the season, they're both below a 350 with regards to that ERA. Now, I do recognize that Aaron Ashby, he's been a little bit, shall we say, shaky recently, but Craig Yoho has been pretty solid in this bullpen when he's been given opportunities as well. The alternative, Paul's a relatively good long guy. Now, he's been dealing with a little bit of injury, but they've replaced him with Chad Patrick, who's been very good as well. And for the Brewers' top 5 team in terms of run creation, even though they're a bottom 5 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, with Jake Bauers leading the way with 18 home runs, 375 on base. Just so many guys, typically 1 through 6, all give you at least a 340 or so on base percentage. William Contreras is sitting right around about a 345 with that on base. Garrett Mitchell, 360 on base. Cooper Pratt up to about a 360 on base. Like, the list goes on and on. Even Gary Sanchez, about a 375 on base. Andrew Vaughn has been incredible at getting on in. For the Miami Marlins, this team has been towards the top of the big leagues in terms of stolen bases, likes of Esteury Ruiz, Otto Lopez, Jacob Marcy, all with at least 17 stolen bases. Xavier Edwards sits at 300. He's been able to give you 13 stolen bags as well. And you're starting to get a little bit more power. Liam Hicks, Owen Casey, Alberto Hernandez, Kyle Sowers, all between 12 and 13 home runs. One guy that's really give you above a 322 on base out of those guys is Liam Hicks, so that's a little bit of a concern. Javier Sanja moves the line, hitting about a 275. I like to call the Miami Marlins sort of the southeast version of the Milwaukee Brewers with the way that they small ball, and they've been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA as well, but now they've been dealing with some injuries, and Lake Picard has seen his ERA start to toilet bowl a little bit. Anthony Bender is right now out of the fold. You do have the likes of William Kepner, Michael Peterson. They've been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. John King has been the king of giving you about a 250 ERA, but like the Brewers here to get the job done, willing to lay up to minus 132 on the money line, and I'm in on the over. Somebody told it at 8.3. 909, 910 on the card. It's the White Sox. They are going to be on the road against the Blue Jays. Shane Bieber has a fever for getting outs, and Davis Martin goes for the White Sox. The White Sox are a favorite here of any between minus 115 to a minus 118. Minus 102 to a minus 105, that number on Toronto. 8.5 is the total, over and under, both between minus 105 to a minus 115. I'm willing to go up to a minus 115 with the White Sox. This bunch has been really good when Davis Martin has been on the bump. I recognize that Martin sometimes can have some shakiness, and he hasn't been quite the same pitcher when he's been away from home, but I just really like what he's shown this year. 341 ERA, 309 fielding dependent with a half a home run allowed per 9 innings, 8.3 strikeouts, 2.8 walks per 9 innings, and for Shane Bieber, last start entering into the All-Star break was much better going up against the San Diego Padres, but man, it's been a no good, very bad, terrible season for him. 7.64 ERA, he's given up 13.2 hits per 9 innings, 6.6 strikeouts, 5.1 walks per 9 innings, and 3.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. And you go up against a White Sox team that has Montaka Murakami, Colson Montgomery, and Miguel Vargas all with at least 19 home runs this season. That's a little bit of a doomsday scenario. Sam Antonassi has moved line really well, 380 on base. Kyle Teal returning to the fold. He should be able to pick it up here in the second half of the season. And Tristan Peters is outing at 300. Chase Meadroff has been able to give you about a 340 on base. I like what these guys are providing. And for the Blue Jays, and you've got guys that are able to move line. Jesus Sanchez is currently out of the fold, but Luis Urias entered in the series hitting about a 290. Ernie Clements hitting a 295. Guerrero will still give you over a 335 on base, but for Guerrero, just 6 home runs. And for that matter, Kazuma Okamoto is 22 home runs. Lone guy in the roster with 9+ home runs. Alejandro Kirk, George Springer have really struggled this season, and both have dealt with plenty of injury as well. Now, I will say, for the Toronto Blue Jays top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA over the last 60 or so days, Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland, these have been guys who have been able to give you a sub 250 ERA, and you've been able to have some of these mix and match guys step up. They get rid of Tommy Nance, and they've been giving Braden Fisher some more opportunities in higher leverage spots, so that's been solid. And for the White Sox, it's a hit or miss bullpen because they're right around about league average in terms of bullpen ERA. The veterans like Sir Anthony Dominguez, as well as Jordan Hicks, these have been guys posting up all above a 4 ERA, but Brian Hudson, Sean Newcomb, Grant Taylor, these guys have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Even Tyler Davis has been relatively okay, so I do trust in the White Sox to get the job done here, set them at a minus 116, so want to lay the money line. I think the Beaver continues to get crushed, so I might tell it at 8.8, so I'm also in on the over 9-11, 9-12 on the card. The Astros are playing us the Baltimore Orioles. Trevor Rogers is on the neighborhood for the Orioles, and Spencer Getty, no, not Mom Spaghetti, goes for the Astros. Astros are minus 110 to minus 112 favorites, minus 104 to minus 110 for Baltimore. 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 110 to minus 120. Unders between even to minus 110, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the Astros. I set them at a minus 124. Now for Spencer Arrighetti, the 4.8 walks per 9 innings are a massive concern. He and Trevor Rogers have relatively similar ERAs at this point. For Trevor Rogers, only about 6.9 strikeouts, 3.1 walks per 9 innings, but has a little bit of a lower fielding dependent than Spencer Arrighetti because the command has been significantly better, but he's also backed up by the far worse bullpen as well. As for the Astros, they have really surged with this bullpen recently. They are second in the big leagues with a 2.93 ERA since June 1st, so that's relatively solid. So even though Arrighetti has a 4.50 ERA, pretty much on par with Trevor Rogers, I do have a lot more faith in this bullpen with having Josh Hader back in the fold, Steven Oker, Brian King. These have been guys who have been able to give you sub 350 ERA, like Savaniel De Los Santos, Brian Abreu, have not necessarily been amazing, but again, getting those reinforcements has been big. And for the Orioles, they're about a league average team in terms of open ERA. I like a few of these guys. Yunier Cano, Uncle Rico Garcia, but able to give you a sub 3 ERA. You've got Andrew Kittredge starting to round into form. Albert Suarez is not a terrible long guy, but Ryan Helsley is back on the injury list. You've had just a whole bunch of issues with some of these guys like Keegan Aiken and company. And for the Orioles, in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run creation when they're away from home as well. Pete Alonso has been solid, 21 home runs, about a 345 on base. Taylor Ward had 30 home runs with the Angels last year, down to 6 this season, but hey, 387 on base, you'll take that. Gunnar Henderson, nice 17 home runs, hitting for about a 294 on base. And then you have some of these guys like Kobe Mayo, Tyler O'Neill, Jackson Holiday, hitting at 220 or lower at the bottom of the fold. Meanwhile, for the Astros, they can be a little bit top heavy, as well as the outfielders are really not supplied for the team. You do have a double figure amount of homers out of Cam Smith, but Joey Luperfido, Zach Cole, Zach DeZenzo, you've got a lot of guys in that outfield. Bryce Matthews hitting a 225 or lower, but on Christian Walker, 20 bombs. He only hits about a 240, but moves the line a little bit, and he gives you that power. Yordan Alvarez, 31 home runs over a 4 on base. Isaac Paredes, 350 on base. That'll do. And then you've been able to get a little bit more of something out of Christian Vasquez. So he's had a little bit of a rough season, as well as Yunier Diaz at the catcher spot. But I do think that for Arrighetti being backed up by that bullpen, it allows the Astros to get the job done and keep this a little bit more low scoring. So set a total of an 8.3. I do like the under end for the Astros. One to lay up to a minus 123 on that money line. 913, 914 on the card. You've got yourself the Tampa Bay Rays on the road against the Boston Red Sox. Patrick Sandoval is on the bump for Boston. Ian Seymour for the Tampa Bay Rays. Rays do find themselves between even money to plus 102. Minus 120 is that number on Boston. 9.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And I set the Rays at a minus 122. I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the money line for Patrick Sandoval. Just his second big league start over the last 2 years, missed the entirety of the 2025 campaign. Looks solid in that first start, but you go back to what he was doing over at the minor league level. It's not like he had some sort of an absolutely awful ERA, or or anything like that at a 349, but 8.4 strikeouts and 4.9 walks per 9 innings. He had a very difficult time in terms of being able to find the zone. Meanwhile, for Ian Seymour, he's been able to round into better form. He did have a rough one going into the All-Star break against the Seattle Mariners, but he's pitched better than the 4.59 ERA would indicate. A 4.09 fielding dependent, 10.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, and this is not just one season, but these are the career numbers of Ian Seymour. Has been much better in the role of a starter rather than the bullpen, where he began the season in the bullpen as a starter. 4.03 ERA, 10.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4.22 ERA out of the bullpen with 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And for the Red Sox, they did have to expend a lot of that bullpen yesterday. Frankly, both of these teams had to expend the bullpen quite a bit because you had yourself a double dip yesterday. And for the Red Sox, it does continue to be a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Garrett Woodlock, along with Teran Guerrero, have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Giovanni Morin has been solid, and obviously Aroldis Chapman continues to get the job done. And then for the Tampa Bay Rays, they've been able to do a nice job with regards to bringing in Casey Lugumina, Cam Boozer. These are reinforcements that in a Rays uniform have been able to give you sub 350 ERA. Brian Baker has been one of the better closers in all of baseball, but for the Rays, it's all about Junior Caminero. Going into the series, 12 home runs in 17 games going into the All-Star break, 371 on base. Yandy Diaz, Jonathan Randa both give you about a 390 on base, and both have give you 13 plus home runs. Now Caminero took that hit by pitch at the All-Star game. Should be all good to go here, though. You want to be monitoring that. And then a lot of guys that move line, like a Ben Williamson, Nick Fortes, sitting in that neighborhood about a 252, 255. Same goes for Johnny DeLuca. Ryan Vilde has been able to find a way on. And for the Red Sox, they entered in this series 10 games below 500 at home, averaging 3.55 runs per game. At home, dead second last in all of baseball. Now you're starting to be able to get guys on base. You've had likes of Ceddanne Rafael, Byler Abreu, Masataka Yoshida, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Anthony Siegler, between about a 325 to a 340 on base, and then you've had Wilson Contreras really carry the mail for the team, 20-plus home runs. He's been able to give you above a 370 on base, but a lot of the rest of the lineup, like Jaron Duran, Caleb Durbin, these guys have just not been able to give you a whole heck of a lot. So I do like the Rays here to be able to get the job done. Set them at a minus 122, and then I did set a total here of a 9.1 right now. We're seeing this in that neighborhood of about a 9.5. Going to be willing to take a shot on the under. 9:15, 9:16 on the card. The Detroit Tigers are on the road against the LA Angels. Grayson Rodriguez goes for the Halos. Tariq Skubal for the Tigers. Tigers are between minus 190 to minus 196 favorites, between plus 154 to a plus 164. That number on the Halos. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8.5. Under is minus 125. Over is plus 105 on the 8. Over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. And I do like the under. I did set my total at 7.7. For the Tigers, this has been a unit that has just not been able to produce a lot of offense all season long. Right now for the Tigers, they're a bottom 8 team in terms of run creation away from home with about 4.1 runs per game. And the Angels have been much better with their offense away from home rather than at home. About 4.9 runs per game away from home compared to about 3.9 runs per game at home. And for Tariq Skubal, I recognize that he hasn't necessarily been Tariq Skubal quite yet this season, but I mean, he's still one of the better pitchers that you're going to find in all of baseball. 3.09 ERA, fielding dependent, that matches up with that. 10.6 strikeouts, 1.3 walks per 9 innings against a LA Angels team that's very all or nothing. Like Joe Adell's been able to give you a double-figure amount of homers, but less than a 300 on base. Zach Neto has been able to give you 17-plus homers as well. He hits for less than a 235 on base percentage, has been quite a bit better. Nolan Schunow moves the line with about a 345 on base, and obviously getting back Mike Trout, 18 home runs. He's been able to give you over a 375 on base, has been good. Have to wonder about some of these mix-and-match guys like a Wade Meckler, Jose Siri. They've come out of nowhere, and I think that there's some regression there, and Josh Slow has been miserable for the team. Meanwhile, for Detroit, you've got a pair of guys, Kevin McGonigal, Riley Green, give you over 375 on base, and you've had a bottom of the full with the likes of Matt Vierling, Zach McKinstry. It was so bad for Zach Short that they had let to go of him, Jake Rogers, a lot of guys sitting at 225 or lower, so that's been a little bit of an issue, though. The Tigers have been a top 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA ever since June 1st. You've had Tyler Holden be able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Drew Anderson, Drew Summers, the true Drews, have been able to give you some good production. Summers has seen his ERA balloon quite a bit, but still, I think they can hold down the fort. Kyle Finnegan has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. And for the Angels, they've honestly not been the world's worst bullpen ever since they let go of Alek Manoah. That was just a failed experiment. Chase Silseth has been able to give you a 4 ERA. You've got Sammy Natera, who's been able to do a relatively solid job. You've had Kirby Yates be able to give you a few okay innings as well. So these have been guys that have been relatively solid. But again, for Grayson Rodriguez, you just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of him. Missed all of last season due to injury, and when Grayson Rodriguez is on, he is on. But you can tell that that has not been the case thus far this season. 7.55 ERA. Right now, he's given up 1.2 home runs, 4.6 walks per 9 innings, and the swing and miss stuff is down to 7 punch-outs per 9 innings. So, with the Tigers, I set their money line price at a minus 167. I do think that minus 190 plus is way too high because we do know that Tariq Skubal isn't in full form, and I do think that when it's all said and done, I should be able to get a plus 168 or better on the Angels, so we'll be looking there to go with the under. Semi-total 7.7. 917, 918 on the card. The Twins are going to be on the road against the Cubs. Dodge don't call Milton Bradley is on the bump for the Twins. Matthew Boyd for the Cubs. The Cubs are between minus 142 to a minus 150, plus 120 to plus 125 is that number on the Minnesota Twins. Right now we're seeing an opening total of 9. The over is minus 115 and the under is minus 105. And I did set a total here of a 9.9. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. The wind should be blowing out to start the day, and then it's going to be blowing in to end the day. So you've got sort of a change of wind situation, and if it continues to change, I'd probably be setting this more to where a 9 or less I'd be in on the over, so we'll be still taking a look at that. But then a 9.5 or higher, I'd be in on the under, so there's a little bit of change there. That's just what happens when you got the Wrigley Field wind situation. But regardless, I would be looking at a 9 or less to the over, and I do like the Twins here, plus 122 or better. Sign me up. Taj Bradley has been able to give you a lot of strikeouts here. Recognize that when it came to like late May, early June, he did have a few fumbles, but overall for the season, posting up a 3.59 ERA. He does give up the 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, 6 plus punch-outs in each out of his last 4 starts. So I'm liking what I'm seeing there. And for Matthew Boyd, overall for the season, he's been able to give you some good swing and miss. He's overall been able to give you about 9.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's a big reason why he's got a 4.50 ERA and a 3.58 fielding dependent. But I mean, since coming off the injury list, he's been posting up less than 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. So that is really waned. So that positivity that should be there, I don't think that's going to be there anymore. And this is a Cubs team that's out about league average in terms of bullpen ERA. You've seen Daniel Palencia go on the injury list. There's just a rash of injuries when it comes to this bullpen. They've been without Porter Hodge for the entirety of the season. Riley Martin, Hobie Milner, they're out as well. Caleb Theobar is posting up a 4+ ERA. Phil Matone doesn't knock your socks off. Trent Thornton, Jacob Webb, they've been relatively solid, but have to have your question marks there. And then for the Chicago Cubs, you've had an offense that has become a top 7 unit in terms of run creation. Pico Armstrong, 380 plus on base, 21 home runs. He's went into inferno mode. And then Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, Dansby Swanson, between 15 and 17 home runs. Not getting a ton of batting average out of these guys aside from Suzuki, but you know what? For Swanson, he's looked much better here over the last few weeks, and then Michael Busch gives you about a 370 or so on base. And for the Minnesota Twins, not having Byron Buxton is really just killing this team, but you know what? You still do have a few guys they're able to knock the ball out of the yard, as you got the likes of Josh Bell, Cody Clemens, Brooks Lee, between 13 to 16 home runs. Bell, ever since June 1st, well above a 340 on base. Cody Clemens has been able to about a 245. Brooks Lee is up to about a 250. You've been able to get some relatively okay production out of Royce Lewis since he got called up from the minor league level as well. Now for the Twins, bottom 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA, you've had Andrew Morris be a little bit better with this bullpen, but man, you just run down the list of guys that are not good in this bullpen. Cody Funderburk, along with, when he's been out there, Cole Sands because he's out with injury, Cody Lawyerson, Anthony Banda, like a whole bunch of guys with an ERA well above a 4. It's just mix and match there. So I do think that you get a higher scoring game, but I do think that the Cubs get to Boyd. So plus 122 or better, I'm in on the money line, and a 9 or less, I like the over. 919, 920. On the card, the Atlanta Braves are going to be playing us to the Walker, Texas Rangers, as Owen Murphy goes for the Braves, and Mackenzie Gore hopes to not get gored for Texas. Texas minus 102 to minus 105, minus 115 to minus 116 for the Atlanta Braves. 9 is the total. Over and under, both are at minus 110, and I'm going to be in on this under. I did set my total at 8.6. The Rangers offense has been a little bit better when they've been away from home rather than at home, but this is still a unit that has been in the bottom 10 in terms of run creation this year. Wyatt Langford should be able to help with that a little bit. He's been hitting at 275 when he's been out there. He's been able to deliver some good power. And you got guys that are able to move the line for the team. Like an Ezekiel Duran is hitting at 270. Justin Foscue about a 280. Josh Young is hitting about a 300. And then Jake Berger along Jock Peterson, main mashers with 14 plus home runs apiece, but just not a lot of power for this team. Not having Corey Seager has hurt them. And for the Braves, this continues to be a top 10 offense in terms of run creation. But going into the day on Friday, they've had the worst record in all of baseball over the last 40 days. We've seen Drake Baldwin not be himself since coming off the injury list. Matt Olson still giving you 25 home runs, about a 340 on base, but they're not really drawing a ton of walks like a Mauricio Dubon. Hits a 265, but about a 320 on base. Tom Smith, 265, more like a 315 on base. I've had a lot of guys not really take their base. Michael Harris has been solid, give you about a 295 average, but again, 330 on base. Ozzy, Albies. He was out of the lineup yesterday as well. Now for the Atlanta Braves, what really helps them out is that they have been number one in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. DDA Fuentes has found a nice home in the bullpen. The Dylan Dodd. They've been able to give you sub 3 ERA. Tyler Kinley, a sub 350 ERA. Raciel Iglesias has been solid. You do lose Robert Suarez due to injury, but we've seen the Rangers be a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA over the last 45 or so days as they've dealt with some injuries. Chris Martin, Jacob Junis being out of the fold has hurt this team. Tyler Alexander has been able to give you those sub 350 ERA. Peyton Gray has been relatively solid. Jacob Latz, he's been able to do a relatively okay job for the team, but Cole Winn has really seen himself toil up on some of these mix and match guys. Just have not been great. Cal Quantrill was a good long reliever. They're now needing to start him as well. So it does lead to an interesting circumstance where you've got a young gun in Owen Murphy that I think is going to be very good for the Atlanta Braves moving forward. They're probably thrusting him into the starting rotation a little bit earlier than expected because they just have had so many injuries. He's only pitched 4 innings at the big league level. He's given up 1 run. Hard to be able to make much out of that sample size. You look at what he did at the minor league level this year, and he struggled a little bit in the beginning part of the season over at AA, but at AAA, he was posting up about a 3.88 ERA, 9.7 strikeouts, 3 walks per 9 innings, and for Mackenzie Gore, he has had his massive issues when he has been away from home. He has been a much better pitcher when he has been at home as Arlington suppresses offense. 4.63 ERA, and I think that he's pitched much better than that. The 3.62 field independent with 1 home run over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, that's an indicator of that, but again, when he's been away from home, 5.81 ERA, 3.44 when he's been at home. So I'm going to be willing to take the Braves here up to a minus 116, set them at a minus 115, and like the under, so I told it at 8.6. We've got doubled up here. 921, 922 is in conjecture with 931, 932. Pirates are going against the Guardians. I believe that it was the air quality that caused for the postponement yesterday, but I've got my handicap as 921, 922 will actually be the late game. We'll go with the early one. It is going to be Gavin Williams once again for the Guardians. Pirates, as I'm recording this, have yet to announce their starter. You have to think that it's going to be Jared Jones here. I'd be very surprised if they don't stick with that. And when this was taken off the board, you were seeing the Pittsburgh Pirates right in that neighborhood about like a plus 105, plus 110, minus 125 to minus 130 was that number on Cleveland, and you were getting a total of a 7.5. And if we get similar numbers, I'll be willing to lay it with the Cleveland Guardians. I set them at a minus 132, so I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 130, and 7.5 or less. Do like the over. This is the same handicap as you got yesterday if you listened to the podcast yesterday. But that said, for Gavin Williams, he's been having himself a nice season. 3.81 ERA, but that does lower to a 3 when he's at home. The issue has been the deep ball. 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but he is getting about 10.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He goes up against a Pirates team that has been one of the better offenses in all of baseball. At home, they're actually number 1 in all of baseball with 5.7 runs per game, closer to 4.9 away from home, which that's still a top 10 mark in all of baseball. And when it comes to this Pittsburgh Pirates unit, you've been able to get really good production out of Brandon Lau, who's been getting loud with 20-plus home runs, and then just a lot of guys in general that they find a way to be able to move the line, get on base, as Brian Reynolds has been able to give you just below 400 on base. Spencer Horwitz has been a little bit in and out of the lineup, 380 on base. Even with O'Neal Cruz out and having Henry Davis at the bottom of the fold be a little bit rough, you've had these guys like Nick Gonzalez be able to step up, hit above a 280. The big thing for the Pirates is that this has been a pretty awful bullpen. Dennis Santana is posting up over a 4 ERA. Evan Sisk, I would say that he's been their best closer thus far this season. He's been on the injured list, and it was so bad for Justin Lawrence, they had to DFA him. Mason Montgomery has not been too impressive, and for the Cleveland Guardians back in the top 10 in terms of open ERA, you've had Eric Zabrowski be able to supply you with an ERA that's below a 350, and Tim Aaron has had a nice season. Even Matt Festa has been a little bit better recently. I like what I've seen out of Colin Olderman as well. And when it comes to Jared Jones, he's got really good swing and miss stuff. He's right around about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. Kryptonite is that he's given up 5 home runs in 35 innings thus far this season. And he can get a little bit wild, about 3 walks per 9 innings. So you do have to have a little bit of trepidation and qualms there. But that said, his ERA has also been bolstered a little bit by pitching in Sacramento and Colorado in 2 out of his 8 starts thus far this season as well. But that said, I do think they get enough scoring for an over of 7.5 or less, and I'm willing to lay up to minus 131 on the Guardians money line. Then this game is on the board as 921, 922. It's going to be Braxton Ashcraft going for the Pirates, Logan Allen for the Guardians, and right now the Pirates are a minus 120, and even money is that number on the Cleveland Guardians. Total on this game is 8, unders minus 120, and the overs even. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. I did somebody total at 7.9. I recognize that Braxton Ashcraft doesn't necessarily have the lowest ERA in the world, but I mean, he's been a little bit unlucky. 3.49 ERA, 3.32 field independent, 1.1 home runs, 2.1 walks per 9 innings, while getting 10.2 punch-outs per 9. And it is a Guardians lineup that has had their struggles. 3.6 runs per game over the last 35 games. You just take a look at what you're getting out of this lineup. Stephen Kwan is hitting less than a 225. You've had Anel Martinez, Jose Ramirez, these two guys have been dealing with injury, below 200 batting average out of Rhys Hoskins without a lot of power. You don't have a single guy on the roster with more than 11 home runs. Chase Lauder has been supplying that, but a lot of those home runs came very early on in the season. And other end, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you just have much more with regards to that offense. Again, have to have some trepidations with regards to bullpen, but for Logan Allen, what are we going to be able to get out of him? He's only pitched 4 innings at the big league level thus far this season, and I've really never been a fan of him. He was better at terms of being able to keep the ball in the yard last season. In 2024, 573 ERA with 2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Last year, down to 1 bomb per 9, but still, 7 strikeouts, 3.6 walks per 9 innings. I think that the Pirates do some damage here. So, like the under, I said by total 7.9, one way up to minus 135 on that Pirates money line. 923, 924 on the card. It's the Padres. They're going to be on the road against the Royals. We do know that Griffin Canning is going to be on the bump for the Padres. Right now, for the Royals, it reads to be determined. So this game is off the board. Right now, everything is saying that Stephen Kolek should be getting the start here. And if you do get Kolek against Griffin Canning, I set the Royals at a minus 133. So one way up to minus 132 there, plus 134 better. Looking at the pods, and then a 9.6 is my total. 9.5 or less. Going to be on the over and a 10 or higher to the under. Keep in mind, they moved the fences in at Kauffman Stadium. And I do think that Stephen Kolek has pitched better than the 450 ERA would indicate. Right now he's got a 454 fielding dependent. He's only giving up 2 walks per 9 innings. The kryptonite that you got with him, he pitches to a lot of contact, 5.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. A lot of things are just warped because he had that one terrible start against the St. Louis Cardinals where he gave up 9 runs and he got 5 outs. That was less than impressive to say the least. And in his last start prior to the All-Star break, he only went 2 innings. That was actually, I believe, a start, and then they just piggybacked off of him, something like that. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but he clearly has not been healthy, so I did have to, shall we say, lower his numbers a little bit here. If you do get a bullpen game for the Royals, that'll probably be more like a pick'em, because even though Griffin Canning is bad, Griffin Canning right now supplying a 6.47 ERA. He's been giving up about 1.3 home runs and 4.9 walks per 9 innings. Fielding depends more around to 472. The Padres do have a far better bullpen with the likes of Bradley Rodriguez, Yuki Matsui, Mason Miller. These guys give you a sub 3 ERA. Wandy Peralta's been solid. Adrian Morejon has been much better. And for the Royals, this continues to be a bottom 6 team in terms of opening ERA with the likes of Alex Lang, Matt Strom, Lucas Ursich, Steven Cruz. Give you all north of a 450 ERA. Like Daniel Lynch has been relatively solid in this bullpen, but outside that, you're really not getting a whole heck of a lot of anything whatsoever. And for the Royals, they do continue to be in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. Now, they do get closer to 4.8 runs per game at home, and you've got Bobby Witt Jr., Carter Jensen, Jack Caglione, all between 13 to 15 home runs. Witt Jr., 30-plus home bags, over a 350 on base. Jensen, he's been able to give you over a 315 on base, and Caglione has been able to raise that on base percentage as well. But Salvador Perez, 250 on base with 11 home runs. You just see more there. Vinny Pasquantino has been a disappointment. Isaac Collins, Zach Lofton, they give you an okay on base, but really not a lot of pop there. Flip side for the San Diego Padres, this team has been dead sinking last in terms of run creation all season long. Fernando Tatis Jr. is giving you right around about a 340 on base, but then you've got the likes of Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill, Xander Bogaerts, Gavin Sheets, Jake Cronenworth, all these guys hitting at 225 or lower. Now, for Manny Machado, he has been able to supply the team with 19 home runs, and Miguel Andujar was dealing with a little bit of injury. They've been able to get him back. He's been able to about a 260, but they're not really getting a lot of on base there, so it's a very interesting circumstance with this one. If you get Kolek and or a bullpen game, 9.5 or less, going to be in on the over, a 10 or higher. I'm going to be liking that under, but with regards to that money line price, up to about a minus 132 is what I'd be willing to lay on Kolek. If the Royals go with a little bit more of a bullpen game, I'm going to be looking at more of an even money price with regards to taking a look at whoever would be the underdog. 925, 926 on the card. The San Francisco Giants are on the road against the Seattle Mariners. Brian Wu says woohoo to another start. Logan Webb for the Giants. 6.5 to 7 is the total on the 7. Unders between minus 115 to a minus 125. Overs between minus 105 to a plus 105 on the 6.5. Overs minus 120. Unders even minus 130 to minus 142. That number on Seattle plus 110 to a plus 120 for San Francisco. And with the Mariners, I'm going to be willing to take them on the money line. I did set this money line price more at a minus 152-ish, as I do think that you're going to be able to get some good value here with Brian Wu, who's been so much better at home rather than away from home. For Brian Wu, he's posting up an ERA that is well above a 6 away from home. It's not like it's the worst summer in the world, but when he's been away from home, he's been giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. Go with that 6.28 ERA, 2.10 ERA with 0.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. And Logan Webb always has some pretty big home and road splits. For his career, 2.92 ERA at home, 0.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 3.95 ERA away from home. And He's backed up by a bullpen that has had some struggles this year. Right now for the Giants, they are 21st in terms of bullpen area with a 450. Caleb Killian has been having a little bit of a rough go of it. You've got Eric Miller who's been up and down. You've had someone like a Yoel Piguero be on the injury list. So you've got a lot of issues there. And I recognize it for the Mariners, Matt Brash being on the injury list along Cooper Kurzweil. That's been a little bit less than tremendous for them. But still, these guys like Nick DeVilla, Edward Bizardo, Jose Ferrer, they've been able to give you a sub-325 ERA. That's been solid for a Mariners team that right now is 4th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Right now, they're clocking in at a 356, so that's been big, and they've needed it because for this Mariners lineup, they have been a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation. Cal Raleigh, big dumper, just has not been dumping home runs. Single-digit amount of homers this far this season. It's been really Dom Canzone with a 340 on base, double-figure amount of bombs, who's really been able to step up for the team. They've been dealing with a little bit of injury to Julio Rodriguez over the last few weeks as well. Randy Arozarena, they get him back. He's been able to give you over a 375 on base, so that's been solid. And I do like Luke Raley giving you 14 home runs as well, so I do think that there's a little bit of upside with this lineup. Meanwhile, for the Giants, having Matt Chapman and Harrison Bader out has really not been too much of an issue. Now, Victor Barracoto was hitting really well for the team, but I mean, they've got guys that are getting on base. You've got Jungo Lee, Luis Arias sitting above a 300 entering into the series, Bryce Eldridge, Casey Schmidt, Eloy Ramos between about a 270 to 280, and Schmidt is up to 19 home runs. Rafael Devers not as big of a waste of money right now. 19 home runs, you're getting a little bit more of something there. William Boor is up to 15 bombs, but that sub 285 on base has been an issue. Daniel Susech being on the injury list has been hurting the team a little bit as well. So leads to an interesting circumstance because you do have a guy in Logan Webb that has been really good since coming off the injury list, but again, don't really trust him as much away from him. I'm going to be in on the over semi-total 7.3, and for the Mariners, I'm willing to lay the money line here. I did set them at a minus 154. 927, 928 on the card. You've got yourself the LA Dodgers on the road against the New York Yankees as Emmett Sheehan is on the bump for the Dodgers, and Ryan Weathers hopes to weathers the storm for the Yankees. The Yankees do find themselves here as a very slim underdog, anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 106, between minus 110 to a minus 112 for the Dodgers. So pretty much a pick'em game. 8.5 to 9 is the total on the 9. Under is minus 120, the over's even on the 8.5. Over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. And I do like the over. I did set my total at a 9.2. You have a Dodger squad that is averaging 6+ runs per game away from them. That is numero uno in all of baseball. And for the Dodgers, I wouldn't want to go past a minus 110, but I would be willing to lay a minus 110 here because for Ryan Weathers, we certainly have seen things soil pull from a little bit this season. Had that nice start to the season, and I mean, his swing and miss stuff is way up. For Ryan Weathers, a 4.15 ERA. He is getting about 10.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the 1.5 home runs per 9, and being in Yankee Stadium going against the Dodgers, that's not necessarily a recipe for success. And Emmett Sheehan, 4.81 ERA. He's been giving up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, and if you look at the career splits here of Emmett Sheehan, he has just really had some road struggles. 3.20 ERA for his career at home. At home, he gives up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. When he's away from home, about 1.9 home runs at a 5.46 ERA. So very demonstrative there now for the New York Yankees over their last 21 games entering into the series, averaging fewer than 3.56 runs per game. So that's been a little bit of an issue there. I do think that they're going to be able to get online a little bit more. You've got Trent Grisham, now give you about a 335 on base. Cody Bellinger had that nice All-Star game. He's giving you about a 345 on base. They need Paul Goldschmidt to be back to where he was about a month or so ago. He's really toilet pulled. And just these young guys like Spencer Jones, who's right now dealing with injury, along with Yasan Dominguez, I was expecting so much more out of them. Ryan McMahon has been a disappointment. Then we got a Dodgers team that has Shohei Ohtani giving you a 400 on base. He, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Andy Paez have all been able to give you 16+ home runs. Mookie Betts over the last 45 days, he's been able to look a little bit more like his old self. You've got Teoscar Hernandez back. Need a little bit more of Kyle Tucker. And the good news for the Yankees is that they've been a really good bullpen. They've been number one in terms of bullpen ERA in the American League. These guys like Fernando Cruz, Paul Blackburn, Brent Hedrick, they've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. David Bednar has been relatively good recently as well. And it's a Dodgers team that they themselves are a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Edgar Enriquez, Brock and Roll Stewart have been two guys that have really been able to hold down the fort for the team, give you a sub-350 ERA. Alex Vesia, Will Klein have been guys that have been relatively solid as well. You have seen Jack Dreher toilet pull a little bit, and Blake Tryon is on the injury list, but do trust in the Dodgers here. Set them at a minus 111, so we'll take them on the money line. I do like the over, so I told 9.2, and we wrap things up with 929, 930. It's the Athletics playing us to the Nationals as Zach Littell goes for the Nationals. JT Gin and Juice is on the bump for the Athletics. Athletics who find themselves as a mid-tier favorite here. You're going to be getting them minus 125 to a minus 130, plus 105 to a plus 110 is that number on Washington. 10.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the over. I did set my total at an 11.1. You've got a Nationals team that has really done a nice job in terms of supplying the offense. Number 2 in the big leagues in run creation, right around about 5.4 runs per game. You've obviously got James Wood, who's been able to give you a really, really good Wood, 25 plus home runs, over 375 on base. But then Luis Garcia, CJ Abrams, 19 plus home runs apiece out of them. Curtis Mead has been able to give you 15 plus home runs. You got someone like a Dallin Lyle who's able to move line for this team as well. So I've really been liking what I've been seeing out of the offense. But for Zach Littell, honestly, he is lucky to have a 490 ERA, 609 fielding dependent. He's been giving up 2.3 home runs per 9 innings. Not a lot of swing and miss here as well. He's getting fewer than 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. So you've had a lot of issues on that front. And for JT Ginn, he's got a 367 ERA. The fielding dependent is a little bit higher because he has been giving up over 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but keeps things out in front of him. 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. He had a sub 3 ERA before that last start before the All-Star game against the White Sox, actually a 3.10 ERA going into that. He had a rough start there, but I think that he'll be able to rebound. You also do have 2 really rough bullpens in this game, which is a big reason why I'm in on the over. Both of these teams are in the bottom 7 in terms of bullpen ERAs for the Washington Nationals, having Richard Dickey Lovelady, Brad Lord, both being on the injury list really hampers them, as PJ Poulin, Orlando Revolta, they've been able to give you a sub 4 ERA, but when you've looked at these guys like a Gus Varland, Justin Lawrence, these are not guys that you want to be trusting in. And for the Athletics, the long guys for the team have been all sorts of awful. Jose Suarez, Luis Medina, Mark Leiter Jr. are all giving you an ERA above a 4. Hogan Harris has been relatively okay for this team, but still, it's been a very shaky bullpen. And for the Athletics, it needs to be pointed out that right now they're dealing with the injury to Nick Kurtz, who has been providing a 400 plus on base. He was giving you 20 plus home runs, but getting back Tyler Soderstrom just before the break, I think, was massive for the team. He was really tearing it up in the month of June. Overall for the season, right around about a 330 on base, 14 home runs, but he has been much better here over the last few weeks. We still have Carlos Cortez, Jacob Wilson, pair of guys hitting about a 280. Wilson really doesn't draw a lot of walks, but Cortez, he's been able to give you darn near 350 on base. They're kicking the tires on Donovan Walton. They were able to pick him up after he had a little bit of a renaissance with the LA Angels. I have no idea where it came from, but he and Henry Bolte have been pretty solid in terms of move the line as well. So I do think that you're going to get a higher scoring game here. Semi-total 11.1. I like the over, and I set the Athletics at a minus 156. I know that for JT Ginn, he might be doing for a little bit of regression, but willing to back him here. I'm in on the Athletics on the money line, and I'm in on this over, and that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And if you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have 1 or 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, large CM, they mean does not matter. So, as per usual, please send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like here on this podcast via the 5-star review. And I'm with you guys every single day. Give you picks and analysis on every game every day. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.